everyone. Welcome to Thursday at noon. I'm Karen Schlossberg of Avalon Springs Farm. I do this weekly broadcast with the Farm Chicks, which are a couple of us indie dyers here in Maryland. And today I'm going to talk about the things on the table. I should tell you at the beginning of this, Jenny, do one of this pose. Woot woot! If you make a comment today, like particularly say, happy birthday, Karen, because today's my birthday, I'm going to donate $1 for every time somebody makes a comment to the Maryland Food Bank, just for fun and also really to get people not to be shy about asking me questions or talking to me in real time, because, you know, this is a live stream and I would be seeing you at shows, and now I have to see you this way. So I want you to feel free to engage, and that's my reward for you to engage. Every week when I do this, part of logging on and being part of the little benefit of this is I put a little bit of yarn on sale. So one of them actually already sold a few minutes before I went online, but I thought I would tell you about my little bundles that are for sale. A couple of these have more than one and are inside, but on the table. This one is called Summer Cheer. It's 2 integrated yarn. This is Pendragon fingering, and this pink that's in the semi-solid is in the sort of speckly, dabby, speckly yarn that's coordinated with it. And that was a topic for last week. I talked about, you know, the value of doing this in person is that since you're looking at it, oh, you can pan down to the cat, Jenny. Okay,
They always
laugh so loud.
They always seem to make their way into, oh, what are they doing at that table?
And they're in our live stream. Okay, so here's the next one. This one was from last week when I talked about the value of doing these live streams can be helpful in terms of looking at coordinated colors instead of individual little boxes of colors on a website. I can say for sure that they coordinate with each other. And that one was number 2, Heart. We have a very pink influence theme going on this week. Number 4 was this one. This one is called Blooming Through the Storm, because this particular colorway is Raindrops on Roses, and then this one is a gray that I make a lot. That was supposed to represent the storm. So there those 2 are. And they're all, I've normally been doing these for like 10% off, but it's my birthday, so they're 20% off today. And then the last one, this one is called Life in the Wetlands, and these are both, I was doing all these coordinated ones, and I decided to throw in a few that were just that were from the same dye lot. So these are actually 2 from the same dye lot. Have a lot of speckling going on, but if you wanted to make a bigger project, so that would be useful to get 2 while they're on the sand. The next thing that I was going to talk about was silk. Wasn't it silk? Yes. Yes. Okay. So this yarn over here is on my website, and it's a really interesting yarn. I really like this yarn. It's different, and that attracts me. So it's called Glass Isle, and let me show you the label data. So basically, in a skein, in a little 3.5 ounce skein, is 200 yards. It's cultivated silk and merino mixed in. But what makes it really cool is, as you can see, it's a single ply, and it's kind of a heavier weight yarn. This is an Aran yarn. I brought out my Yarn Craft Council chart. Not that everybody likes graphs and charts, but I wanted to talk about the fact that people have, when they shop for yarn, there's a lot of overlap between what we call Aran and worsted, or sport and DK. And if you zoom in on that chart, you can get this chart from the Yarn Craft Council. I've printed it out more than once, and then on this particular copy I credit them at the bottom instead of the top, but I use the data in here. So there are totally lots of opinions about how to define what yarn is. And this particular set of symbols people see all over the place is an international set of symbols. So even if you're not shopping here, you can sort of make equivalencies. But I know there's a lot of, once you look at this particular column and you see that's yards per pound, that's not how normally people shop for yarn. They shop for it in these 3.5 ounces or 4 ounces. And so there'll be, in a 4 ounce skein, there'll be 4 of them in a pound. And then mathematically even more when it's not quite a 4 ounce skein. But if you produce yarn, and I'm like, pan out to the goats. Do you see them? Oh, they're down the hill. My orientation to the fiber world is from those guys. So when I'm not just a dye artist, I actually make the yarn. And when you make the yarn, what matters to you is by the pound. And so I really function from that little chart because I'm always talking about yarn based on yardages in a pound instead of the way my knitters and crocheters are talking about it in yardages in like a 4 ounce skein or a 3.5 ounce skein. So for me to talk to my fans, I often have to do a little math. But I thought I would share with you my orientation because that helps me help you. Let's talk about this yarn for a second. I brought out my Pendragon yarn. Oh my goodness, I got this skein all twisted and messy. Oh well, let me take it out of the thing. I brought out my, this is a worsted yarn, which is a different weight than what you would call an Aran weight. Here we go. And check out, Jenny, where the worsted and the Aran are on the chart. Look, Aran is 700 to 1,000, and worsted is 900 yards to about 1,100 yards. So for sure there's some overlap there, but then that means that you're expecting this one to be just a little bit thinner than this one. But you know what? As the way the fiber content speaks, merino in the Pendragon is really bouncy and fluffy. Silk in this glass isle is really drapey and more dense. So isn't that amazing that you can, that the physical size of the strand to the naked eye doesn't really tell you everything you need to know. That's why I say, even if you're not a super duper fan of this Craft Yarn Council chart, when you're working on what to do with a particular yarn, it can be really helpful because it can change what you see to something that will work in a pattern, because that's a really interesting comparison visually speaking. So back to the silk. Let me show you, I brought out, the other thing I wanted to do today was show you some silk, what it looks like before it's made into yarn. And I brought out 2 kinds. So this is cultivated silk. It's bombyx. So yeah, I know. I'm putting that right next to that because, oh my gosh, do you get how shiny it is? Oh, lovely, lovely. So bombyx is a kind of a silkworm, and it's used, and I guess when we talk about cultivated silk, they're saying, it's all this one particular kind of silkworm. And it's very uniform because of that. And as a matter of fact, they get a really nice long staple length, meaning the distance of every individual fiber. That's what they mean by staple length. And that adds to the drapiness and the strength of it, because by the time that you create the twist in a yarn, even though this is a single ply yarn, which is not as strong as 2 plies, the silk, the Bombyx silk, all by itself has a really nice long staple length. So there's a lot of, in 1 inch of this yarn, there's going to be many twists, which are going to add to its stability and strength. Okay, and now let me show you some tussa for comparison. And we looked this up this morning because I had to have a better understanding of the difference. So this is tussa, which I usually, when I talk about the differences, I talk about the visual differences. You can see that tussa has a slightly shorter staple length, but I'm not saying that you can see that because we're going to go in with the microscope and measure them. I'm just going to say that because you can see how slick the cultivated is, and the more wild silk, the tussa silk, is less consistent. It's got a little bit more halo. That accounts for variance in the staple length. And they spin a little differently if you were going to spin them. So my yarn glass isle was made out of the farmed silk, which was the Bombyx. Jenny, also, you know what? Hey, you guys, I bought myself a birthday present. This book, I came across it on Instagram, people just chatting about the book, and then 2 local friends and fiber artists to me both recommend the book. One of them was Lisa Check, who's another one of the farm chicks, and then also Solitude Wool, which is down in Virginia, another person that I see at shows a lot. They both like this book, and I was like, well, then I gotta read it. I gotta see it. So I got it, started reading it. It's great. I really like this author's approach. I actually, I'm not deep into it yet, so I can't say that I've read the whole thing, but it's beautifully done. And if you want to research further into things like what different fibers do and how they behave, this is a great reference book as well as read. You can read it either way. You can read. She writes like little vignettes, so you can read a section or you could read straight through. But I was reading it I started straight through, but then I found myself wanting to answer questions on certain topics, and so then I went in to read on little topic areas. One of which was silk, because I knew I was
Reconnecting. Oh, okay, there you go. It reconnected. Sorry.
Oh, I hope I wasn't.
It was only for a brief amount of time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do I need to repeat anything?
Just probably the last sentence.
Okay, just that I was enjoying the book, and the value of having something like this on your shelf is the idea that you have this giant stash that you're working from. And I, of course, am trying to get you to add to your stash. Giggles, giggles, giggles. But then you need to know how to convert your stash into projects that you'll love, you'll enjoy, you'll wear, you'll use. That's the goal, that it comes from not just the joy of the colors and then the joy of the creating, but that at the end of all of this investment of time and energy and even a few dollars, that you have a functional piece that you or somebody else is going to enjoy. And that's where the need to understand something works. People are always talking about how to pick a pattern or make pattern conversions. So the more that you know about the way the yarn behaves, the easier that is to do. Because this is my first time talking on my little live stream about my silk yarn, which I find so fun for its unique properties, the big drape, the lots of luster, the fact that it's a single ply and not a double ply, the fact that even as an errand weight by the math, it still is a little smoother and not quite as fat as a worsted weight in wool. You know, that's pretty cool. So I thought, well, let me help out my peeps. And I went on to Ravelry this morning, and I just quickly got 3 patterns. These were all free that would work with this yarn. Okay, now Jenny, you're going to have to read the names because I can't do it upside down.
Holding Hands, Feeding Ducks. Then,
is the top one.
Yes. Then Birthday Cake.
Oh
Cowl.
my goodness, happy birthday.
I do not know how to say that. That is a big long...
I don't know how to say that either.
Oh, you can guess at it, but there you go.
But actually, it's by Kay. Well, her last name, Smith, is easy enough to say.
Yes.
But the reason that I chose these 3 is because of unique stitch work and the way that they would work with either in this yarn up here. I have some that's variegated softly or strongly, some that's speckled, and some that are solid. So you could take advantage of that dye work in any of those 3 patterns, because that's the other thing that I want to help you guys do is talk about the way that I dye the yarn so that you can figure out how to use the yarn in that particular kind of dye work. So that's my presentation. Are there any specific? Oh, people wanted to know about this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yes. So this is thank you, Jenny. This is a new yarn. I'm gonna have to name it Mothers and Daughters or something about my birthday or something. This is sport weight, and yesterday I made it with my daughter Robin, who is very shy about being on camera, and we did it together. She put on a color and I looked at her color, and then I said, okay, I'm gonna add this color. And then we came up with a way to speckle it. So it's like the tag team dye work skein. Cause you gotta have fun. And it dried overnight. So I was like, well, yeah, it's really pretty. Should I open this one? I can open this one. It's kind of rainbowy, so it's definitely got little areas of blue and green and yellow and some sort of coral strawberry color and then little speckles, light speckling in between. So that's fun. I've got to put that one up, but that day.
Okay, now it's reconnecting. That was her Instagram post for today.
Yeah. Is there anything else we should tell people? Oh, you know what? One last thing. I stuck this up here to remind myself. This week I had an unusually high number of people who decided to take advantage of the no contact curbside pickup, where you can look at things that I have online and I bag them up for you and you come and pick them up. We're standing where the curbside pickup is. Show the tree and pan up. See this giant tree when you come up my driveway. There's this giant tree, and you can show our little tea cart.
You have some cats over there.
Okay, so that's where you come if you do curbside pickup. But I had lots of them this week, and some people came from, kind of far distances, and since we're in the pandemic and you're not eating inside restaurants, people did maybe want to stop and get something to drink. And that made me think of Rock Hill Orchard, which is like a quarter of a mile. Let me put this down on the table so I'll flip it. They're a quarter of a,
There you go.
they're about you know, like 10 houses away or a quarter of a mile away, you know, as the bird flies, we very, very close. Let me flip it over. And they have like homemade ice cream and like honey sticks and baked pies, as well as fruits and local, depending on what time of year that you, but you can sit outside. So it was a safe pandemic place to go for something that if you needed a refreshment and you were visiting me for my curbside pickup. So I'm plugging a buddy, a neighbor of mine this week. Do we have any other questions?
Just beautiful yarn, and I need some of that silk.
That's cool. All right, so let me wave back to you guys and thank you for joining me this week.